Hi everyone, welcome to the session on demystifying blockchain technology. The history of blockchain technology dates back to the global recession in 2008. When the very first, I would say, the Bitcoin, which we call as digital currency, was invented. I would call that as a poster boy of the blockchain technology. But later on, since for some reason the Bitcoin could not pick up the momentum, but later on the people found that this technology can be used for many other activities around. So that's the way its story starts from there. I think it has picked up the momentum in the last few years. If you look back to 2018, 2019, there was hardly any day when the subject of blockchain was not discussed on the media or in the other journals as well. Now, during COVID-19, I think it has picked up more momentum now, I will call it. When we talk of COVID-19, there's a strong sense of disruption we all feel about it. In our work, in our social lives, even our mindset is becoming much more digital. We are receptive to digital things around. This has accelerated the digital transformation. So in short, if I say the blockchain is speeding up the adoption of Industry 4.0, COVID-19 has certainly accelerated the path. There is no second thought about it. Now, when the acceleration starts of Industry 4.0, that means using the digital technologies, but digital technology comes with its own problems. The problem of trust, the problem of security, the cyber security. So if I want to become more digital, then cyber security become issues that, guys, somebody can hack my system, somebody can hack my data. So that worry part is addressed by blockchain. So in short, if I have to say, the blockchain is addressing the trust, the blockchain is giving, I think, whatever the fear we had, and the second was the transparency part. It addresses the two things around the security part, transparency part. So those are basically, I would say, is propelling Industry 4.0 to expand its outreach further. So with this, friend, let me start further. Now, what I plan to do up in today's session, as you have seen in the previous messages from our office, first thing is to understand what is blockchain technology. That's a key thing I would like to focus a lot. And why use blockchain? Why do I need it? And how does it work? So these are the three things I would like to focus a lot first. Then the next thing I would try to touch about is what are the opportunities for it? If I go for it, what are the opportunities? And what are the challenges? It's a revolutionary technology, I would call. So being a revolutionary, it has challenges also. If you go back a decade back, smartphone was also a revolutionary thing. It has changed the way of life, changed the way we work. Same way I treat this as a revolutionary technology. So what are the challenges with this? When to use blockchain? So many of you will say, guys, I come from a pharma sector. I come from this sector. Is blockchain really relevant for me? So when to use blockchain, I think is important. And lastly, but not the least, because many of you are from procurement and supply chain activities around, what role it has to play in that. So this is what I will try to cover up in the next 60 minutes. But if you have any questions, please leave your question on the chat box and we'll try to address. So understanding the blockchain, the very first, let's start with that. The historical part, as I said to you, it was in 2008, one of the big banks. They went into closure. It affected the lives of many people around. People started losing faith even in the banking system. They said, guys, we can't have a faith in this. This whole centralized approach has to become decentralized. So this is how the story started in 2008. And it was in 2009 when the very first invention, as I said to you, was the Bitcoin. And the person who was behind, his name is still not fully known, but people call it Satoshi Nakamoto, who was the man behind it, building up the paper on this. Coming back to the evolution of technology, because everybody is talking in COVID-19 digital era, digital era. And the digital era is nothing but Industry 4.0. Now 4.0, when we talk about, is nothing but the fusion of physical and virtual world. If I go to Industry 3.0, that time also they came, the computers were there around. It was 1969. I remember the time when we went through it, adoption of this in the manufacturing business, use of CNC machine, use of robotics in the industries around. But Industry 4.0, because of the fusion of physical and the virtual world, has come much forward around. The type of technology which have come up around, advanced robotics, 3D printing, IoT, artificial intelligence, big data, whatever you call, there are key technologies around. But the problem with this has been, now when we talk of technology, many of you are using it, whether you're using digital, robotics part, whether you're using data analytics, it has improved the convenience, speed, and efficiency, certainly. But the key thing which we are suffering in the technology is the time of from between the transaction and settlement. You have all the best technologies around nowadays, many of you, but the time cycle is very long. It's more of a straight path. It's a linear path. Then there's a duplication of efforts. If you have 40 or 50 players involved in the whole supply chain, each one is maintaining his own ledger. Then which one is the truth? Nobody knows it. And if information is all centralized, and that centralized data can be changed around, so the truth is gone. The trust is gone. Anybody can hack into the centralized system. That's the way the lack of trust and the data security. So we are moving toward digital era, but people are having worrisome. The more we become digital, anybody can hack our data. So the concept of blockchain basically avoid that issues around. That means no hacking can happen. The trust could be built further. Now, this is how the blockchain come. If you look in this, the technology enablers which have come from Industry 4.0, IoT is there, robotic process is there, 3D printing is there, augmented reality is there, cloud is there, intelligence, AI, cybersecurity, all of you are in this pictures around. But that cybersecurity is not serving the purpose around in many places. So the blockchain, which is overriding, you can see, it's a new way of securing a trust, transferring the values and storing the data. The new way means it is not centralized information. Today, when I'm having 50 or 60 people in the whole supply chain, and every information, if it is particularly dealing with funds, is going to the bank. If anything else, is going to some other servers, and those servers are centralized. So anybody can hack and change it. But the moment the blockchain concepts come, it's a more of a distributed concept. So it's not a centralized, it's a decentralized database. And the moment it is decentralized, it's not easy to change. So that's how the concept of blockchain is there around. In simple words, is a digital record of transaction. So the transactions are nothing but the blocks. So those blocks are nothing but the digital records of transaction. And the blockchain is most simply defined as decentralized. I decentralize the information. I'm not going to centralize one place. Everybody has the information who are part of my team, who are part of my peer-to-peer team, and it's distributed. Everybody has the copy of the data. So you can't change it. And this type of things prove the provenance, the truth of the digital asset. You can't change it around. The data is immutable. I could have change the data had it been a centralized. Since it is not centralized, it's decentralized, it's distributed, so you can't. So blockchain is a new type of database. It's like saying email is a new way of sending people letters. I think in a simple word, if I want to say around, particularly if I look from the Indian system, blockchain technology mimics a wedding ceremony. In a wedding ceremony, you have people who are joining you. They're more like a peer-to-peer. Each one has got the note from you guys, so and so is marrying so on. So the trust is there, the record is there, agreement is there within the invited community. So same way in procurement, supply chain, any other transaction activities around. So when you're going with this distributed system, when you're going with a decentralized system, the truth is there. Nobody can change it. So this is where I wanted to mimic it with a wedding ceremony where everybody has a card. Nobody can say, oh, I didn't marry at all. So here is a one, same way concept is here around. Now, what does it mean to be decentralized? Look at the traditional system. We have a centralized system, it's with a ledger. So there are 4 players in the traditional systems. Every information is going to centralize. I might have transferred fund, I might have done purchase order, I might have done anything, activities, is all going at one place. So this centralized systems, if somebody wants, they can change it. Look at even when you're buying a property, all your information is going at a central place. We say so-and-so is the owner of the house, but if somebody wants to go into the computer system, they can change the data. But in a blockchain system, everybody has the copy of the ledger. So in short, the ledger which was centralized that has become digital ledger, it is available to all. So once it's distributed, you can't change it. This is the way we come around understanding again the centralized versus this. Here you can see there was a controller who controlled the database and there are a wide range of users around. Now, when we come to the blockchain, it is all having equal rights. The feudalism is gone. It's much more democratic. Everybody has access to the data. So this is where I think one of the organizations on social medias, particularly, the Twitter is trying also to switch over from centralized system to decentralized system. Because in a centralized system, whether it's a Facebook, whether it's even today Twitter, anybody can collect the data and use it, sell it, use for their own purpose, marketing purpose. So in short, once it becomes decentralized, it cannot be used for that purpose around. So that's the beauty of it around. Now this is again, it shows you same the trust environment. Normally we thought, oh, we have a trust in the big organization, big institution. Same thing happened in 2008. Big iconic bank around. So when they closed down, many people lost their funds around. They say, guy, we can't have a centralized trusted authority. The system look very trusted, but it doesn't work sometimes. But the moment it's a decentralized or distributed, I think the trust goes. The trust is not, trust goes into the system around, not in the person. There it was in the person, the authority part. There's no authority here. Everybody is connected in the peer-to-peer, so we have a much more. It's a distributed trust environment. There was a traditional means centralized trust. Now this is where 3 things comes around. Centralized, which we are all used to it. Today, everything is centralized. Slowly, many organizations are switching over to decentralized and distributed. So information is there around. Now, this is another way, the centralized versus decentralized. Everybody has access. The beauty of this one is faster. No single point of failure. In a centralized system, if system is not working, the server is not working, say, guys, sorry, guys, my server is down. I can't do anything. But here, everybody has access to the data around. So there is no single point of failure. So that's a good thing about it now. So if I have to say blocks versus blockchain, in block is nothing in a literal sense is a record. It's a transaction. It could have data, it could have files of digital assets like name, address, contact information, your pictures, even the name of the contracts, whatever you want, it's nothing but the transaction. So all transaction which goes into the literal sense is called a block. Now these transactions pertaining to one contract, let's say, they follow each other. Today I've sent one transactions, could be on RFQ, another could be on RFP, then third one could be the feedback coming around. So each one is a block and each block is connected. So it becomes a chain. The block chain. Now I might be having thousands and millions of transactions going on, but how do I know which transaction, which block has to go and fit with someone? So there has to be hash. So there's a hash key which connects X block with the Y block pertaining to particular activities around. So that's a factor which has to be kept in mind. Now the fundamentals, if I look around, as I said earlier, is a shared one, distributed ledger, which facilitate the process of recording transaction and tracking assets. So when I can track it, it cuts down my risk around, it cuts down my costs around. So that's the beauty of it. So this is how it is, centralized systems, private, public. The ledgers could be public, the ledger could be private. So when the digital currency came around, the Bitcoin, I'm sure all of you are very conversant with that, it was more of a public. Everybody has access to that. But in the private, I'm working with one group, let's say Tata Group of companies, and they have got many companies, they will like to have their own private ledger. They don't have to make it to the public as a whole. So they will have private connecting with the ecosystem. Who are my suppliers? Who are my stakeholders? I may connect them. But in this one, since it's dealing with currencies, it is public. Anything to do with the governments, it may be public. But private companies may use the private blockchain ledger. The beauty of private is the speed is faster, so things are much better off. Because the number is counted numbers. It is not everybody has a permission. So here is a permission system required around. So what is the difference here? You can see with blockchain, without blockchain, everybody is connected. Inefficiency, expensive, and vulnerable because somebody can hack it. But with blockchain, the chances of hacking are gone. And everything goes through consensus. Everything goes through the truth part. Everything has immutability. Nobody can take it out. Nobody can hack it. And finality. So that's the beauty of it. Now, this is where I want to again emphasize when everybody is moving into, all of us are moving into digital era, and everybody is wanting to say, okay, let me digitize it. Every organization you go around, every person you meet around, whether in manufacturing or services, they're very busy in trying to digitize their activity. But they also have a worry in their mind, if I digitize, somebody can hack into my system. So on top of it, if we put blockchain, then worrisome is gone. That's the beauty of it. Ordinary transactions are becoming much complex around. Here I'm showing only 6 players. But if you are involved, starting from where the raw material comes, it goes to tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 companies, then comes to your manufacturing, then goes to dealer, then goes to retailer. It might be hundreds of players. So 100 of players around, so that could affect ordinary transactions. Guys, there seems to be some sound. Please mute it if someone is. Now, the blockchain reduces the complexities. That's the beauty of it, which I said in the beginning. Now, here comes again the same business network. I've got parties A records, auditors records, party B records, bank. Each one is maintaining a record. Then at the end of the day, each one is talking to each one. Figures don't match. My figures may be different. My supplier's figure may be different. My bank's figure may be different. So we waste a lot of time in getting authenticated, getting it verified. But if I put something like this in a blockchain where every information, every transaction goes through the blocks and blocks are accessible to each one, everybody has the same truth. I don't have to spend time in verifying it. It's available to me on a real-time basis. So that's where this helps us around. Now the business networks, I can skip this, I think. Yeah. Now, how does it work? I hope you've got very basic ideas around why the blockchain. How does it help in the digital era to make it much more reliable? Now, coming back to how does it work? The very first thing is it brings together an ecosystem of partners. You have ecosystems. Today, ecosystems are sitting outside your system. You might have ERP, but still out of the worry that you don't want to allow every supplier to come and connect with your ERP. So you allow them through your whatever you can say around emails and this, but that doesn't give you real-time basis information. But here I can bring together all ecosystem of partners, my suppliers, my customers, my dealers, everybody is connected. So the key four tenets, if I look around, it's a shared one. I'm not working in silos. I'm connected with them. If any change happens with the demand, I can play around quickly because information is coming directly to each one of us. Immutables, privacy is maintained around, smart contract. I would call this is another innovation of blockchain technologies where smart contracts are becoming, and they are becoming very popular nowadays. Some companies have already come up with this. The trust and the consensus part. Since it's a distributed one, the trust is there. In a centralized system, people are losing trust around. It belongs to us. It's a democratic system. It's not a feudal system, it's a democratic system. And being democratic, everybody knows the truth. So consensus is required, and consensus is required by the peers group. So here is come the what goes behind it. How do we connect the two blocks together? One block come, second block, third block, because I got hundreds of transactions. That's why when you look at your procurement file, it's full of papers. Each paper might be dealing with one transaction, second transaction, third transaction, dealing with the same project. So that is how I want to connect them. The plain text, hash text function. Hash function convert the plain text into hash text. It will look like some alphanumeric. Nobody knows what it is. And nobody can read it. So this is how the hashing concept is very, very important around to improve the security part of it. Now look at this. The blocks in it, if I talk about blocks, it's nothing but a pages in a book. If you want to call a book, it's a ledger book. Like good old days, we used to have a ledger book. So ledger book is nothing, the whole thing is blockchain, but each page is my blocks. You can see one block, second block, third page is all connected. And connected through what? Digital fingerprints. And hash is nothing but a digital fingerprint. And digital fingerprints, you and me don't create it. It is created by the system. By the cryptographic system, it creates the system around, it gives the code numbers, it connects them together. So this is how it is there around, like say I've got a block 1574, 75, 76, all are connected. If you look at 74, hash number is there, and then it also shows you the previous block hash, the previous of that one around. So there is a previous block hash, it connects them together. And what transactions are there in each one? Like I've got two transactions in the 74, 75 has got one transaction, all are there. There's a size limitation of the each block. So depends on the size of the transaction. So you may have as many transactions. So they're all connected, and this is why it is called blockchain. Earlier it used to be the word separately, block separately, chain separately. But now since they're all connected, this is a one word called blockchain. So block is transactions, Chain is the one which connects each block together. Totality is called blockchain. So this system we are trying to call as blockchain technology. So the good thing in this block is there's a timestamp. Whenever the transaction happens, anything happens, there's a timestamp. The date was clear. Previous hash around. Unique cryptographic signatures around. Nobody can open it. You need cryptographic signatures. Everybody will have a private key and public key. There's asset and transaction data around. So all that goes together. So that's what we call this. So same thing, I can skip this one. Now, the blockchain, if I want to summarize again this one, the cryptographic base, immutable natures, and it's unhackable. That's what the beauty of it around. This is another thing which is there around when we are doing the transaction from X to Y, or Y to Z, then like in our day-to-day life, what we do, we send an email to each one. So email address is my public key. But to open it, I need a private key, my own password. If I've forgotten my own password, I can't open it. So that is my private key. So there's a public key, there's a private key. And public key also, when I send the email to you, so here if any transaction I talk around, it gets encrypted. And then you have to decrypt it before you can read it. So that's the beauty of it. So this is how it is, the public key plus private key, both together, I'm able to open it. Otherwise, I can't open it. So each one of you, you will have a public key around. In the similar system, the way you have email address and you have a password. I have my emails. I cannot open without my private key. Same way when I send the email to others, they cannot open without a private key. So like this here, the node 1 to node 2, I'm sending using my private key. I'm sending something, encoding it. Send, goes there. The other guy has to decode it. He uses a private key around. And that's it.
चलो आगे से चलेंगे सर. यहाँ पे बेटा पूरी धूप है आज. फ्लावर भी नहीं चाहिए ना आपको?
Please, I think. Understanding the blockchain part. Now, someone wants to register a transaction. The transaction is represented as a block in the shared ledger. The block is broadcast to all the peers. If it's a public platform, it goes to everyone. But it's a private platform, it goes to those which have been approved by the company. And then it is obviously, once it is validated, and after the validation, the block moves further and gets connected to the previous blocks around. So you get a single picture of the chain, and actual state is available to all authorized participants. Suppose if I'm working in company X, we have 400, 500 people who are connected, including our suppliers and everything around. So every information goes this way, then information is available to all. So the truth is available, everything is okay. So this is how understanding the blockchain. Another way also, somebody makes a request to transaction. Transaction could be RF request going around. A request is being approved by somebody around. I'm asking for quotations around. After that, I'm evaluating them. I'm asking informations. Everything is coming as a block. And once I make a purchase orders, it also goes. If I'm making a contract, it goes there. So then it is validated. Same concept the way you do it, but it's all in the blockchain. It's on the distributed system. Now here it is coming around, the transaction is complete. The one side I've cut it out because if case, tomorrow we get clearance, that we could make the payment through digital currency. Today there are many concerns. I think this area has to get matured first. If that area is done, the payment can also be done by digital currencies, but smarter. You don't have to go through the bank because the bank has charges. Here it goes through the digital way. So for the time being, I'm cutting it off on the side, but other activities can go on. So this is where this one is nothing but the very first one. Here I want to show you around the transaction is combined with other transaction. It's more like a brick. So that means if one brick has been laid down, one transaction is laid down, another transaction is going on top of it, I cannot change the previous one without removing the top bricks. So same way, one cannot do anything. This is why I said to you, is immutables, it cannot be changed easily. I won't say until you are busy to remove all the bricks around and start from scratch, that's a different story. But in general, I would say in principle, it cannot be changed. The data cannot be changed. So this consensus mechanism, how do we give the consensus? Earlier it used to be proof of work. If somebody says the job has been done, who proves it? It used to be the older system, proof of work. It was very slow. I know still it is used for the public platform, but for the private platform, we are using proof of stake. And proof of stake is much easier to manage, much quicker, and speed is faster also. So this is where, with this proof of stake, I would say call another invention part. Proof of work is good for the currencies part, but not for other activities around, not for other transactions. If in a nutshell, if I want to say it's a shared ledger, it's a ledger, no second thought, it's a digital ledger. Its cryptography is used around to secure, authenticate, verifiable transactions. You're seeing the hash mechanism, you're seeing the key concepts around. So the whole cryptography gives very secure system. Consensus, as I said to you, there are two mechanisms around. One is a proof of work, other one is of stake. And the third is a shared contract. So this is the one key, I would say, the features of this. The benefits, you remove the middle persons. Everything is done together, directly. And it's a trustless exchange. And there's a trustless exchange, but the system makes it very trustful. Empowered users, everybody is empowered, depending on the role. Process integrities, high data qualities, because nobody can argue around whether it's right or wrong. In a decentralized system, everybody will say, my system is correct. My data shows this much I have to pay you. Bank says this one. Other supplier says something. Here is much more direct. Transparency is there. Since all the peers, all the ecosystem people are connected, everybody knows each and every information. It's transparent. And immutables, nobody can hack it. So why do we need this? Often each participant has his own ledger, which I said to you earlier also. Thus, the version of truth may differ. Then when we look around, the multiple ledgers can be a recipe for error. If we have 40 people involved around, one guy who's giving the raw material, another guy who's converting the raw material into semi-finished goods, other one is converting into finished goods, third one is assembling them, fourth one is my dealer. The whole chain is very long and everybody has a different truth. So in case of blockchain, that cannot. So this is where it is moving very fast. So again, getting back to the why, unalterable copy. You can't change the copies around. Real-time tracking, security, no single point of failure because everybody has a copy of the ledger. You, me, everyone has a copy of the ledger. Those who are authorized in the case of private one. So once we have this one, even if one system is down, parallel system is available to me. I know every company does their own server. They have a backup. But if one is not working and unluckily the backup is not working, I've seen even in India also many big banks, oh, my transaction is not going today. We have a problem at the backup. But here, no, there's no single point of failure. Reduce the cost. Trusted transactions. While in the centralized system, you might be feeling it's a big bank, big this, but tomorrow if they get bankrupt, what do you do? And sometimes you will not know it. What happened in 2008? Nobody knew. The Lehman Brothers were the biggest bank. And overnight, a month back, they were doing very well. And then overnight, they becomes something like that. So this is where we need a trusted transactions around. No third party involvement. In summary, if I say around, it removes the middle persons. It connects people together. So now come the next one is the blockchain 2.0, which was the next revolution. So I hope by now you have understood what is blockchain, how does it work, and what are the benefits of it around. But the new thing which came up, I think, which has revolutionized bigger way, the contract, smart contract. If you look at a contract, is what is a protocol. Guys, you will do this, I will do this. If you do this and this is matching with my expectations, you get payments. Milestone 1, milestone 2, milestone 3. If you think as an engineer, you think as any logical person, each step is full of activities. If this is done, the payment should go. I know in ERP we have a three-way matching. But here, so three-way matching is good. I'm not saying that. But same thing, if I can program it, it takes care of itself. The payment also. So in many organizations, this one's picking up in a big way. In India also, there are few organizations who have already started on the smart contracts. So you can convert your contract into a program. If systems are taking care, then fine, the payment goes through. This is how it works. So the contract, which are the terms, the rules, conditions, agreements, whatever you establish, I translate into a code, pre-programmed control contract. Then within that pre-programmed contract, I've got chain of events. Chain of events could be raw material supplied, I have to make 5%. Next work has been done, and then I have to make 5%. So chain of events happens around, somebody is executing it, value transfers happens on step by step. A big project. I'm making highway, let's say. The project is of 3 years. And in that there are chain of events around, and those chain of events, I put them as the milestones. And once it happens, computer system, which is pre-programmed, executed, and value is transferred. The money is transferred. And at the end of the day, when the project is over, we do the settlement part. We don't have to go line by line. No, it doesn't match with my figure. It doesn't match with my figure. System is telling you, and each one has same data. So that settlement part, which we normally lead into sometimes disputes, can also be done because everybody has the same truth. Nobody can play with it. So this is where the traditional contracts normally will take, let's say, 1 to 3 days. Even an ERP system, it has its own issues. Smart contract takes minutes. Then, if any remittance has to be done in a manual remittance, sometimes we have to pay royalty to our headquarters around. It's a manual remittance. It takes a long time. But automatic remittance will go quickly. But I think then question come of digital currency. So far, the government is controlling it. But we hope someday that will also come up. Smart contracts is an agreement, set of rules that govern the business transaction. Is self-executing, self-enforcing. That's the beauty of it. Smart contract, if you look at a very long supply chain, starting from, let's say, from the tier 1 supplier, tier 2 suppliers, coming to the shipments, certificate of origins. So wide range of things. And you pay based on many things around. You say, can you show me the origin data? Can you give me what this? Has the quality been checked or not? 20 things are required around. And now the blockchain is automatically checking that. Supplier order is matching or not. Invoice is matching or not. They'll check it up. Quality check, somebody has cleared or not. So once these are done, I'm ready with my blockchain smart contract to process the payment. Similarly, from the manufacturer, when it goes to the dealer, or it goes to the retailer, every place there's a smart contract which covers all the checklist and processes the payment. Otherwise, you and me will be going through a file of 200 pages, watching through it, and then saying, guys, okay, before I go to the ERP and put on, I'm okay with it. System is checking. So this is where, if you look at a bigger multiplied scale, and think of a company which is dealing worldwide, if you think of a company like Apple, which is buying from 40 or 50 countries, their parts around, and then they are assembled in some places, sold through millions of dealers. Now think of it, smart contract can simplify the process. Documents can be matched online. You and me don't have to sit down and each line by line checking it out. So this is where the whole philosophy comes. So far, these needs were not much because India was not, let's be honest, has never been a big exporter on the goods side, if you look at the global scale. But now we are hoping that we want to be the supply chain hub. If we want to be the supply chain hub, we have to get digitalized. And when we want to get digitalized, there's a risk with digitalization, and the blockchain can address the risk part around. So next thing is coming on the public and private blockchain. These are two things around, certainly. So the public means we use it normally for anything to do with the governments, like currency. Tomorrow we want to do online voting even. We don't have to stand in the queue. Actually, we did in the UN, we did one project with Estonia where the voting is also done through blockchain. You don't have to go anywhere. Your fingerprints, your eyes, everything information is there on the computers. Sit in front of it. If it recognizes you, press the button. End of it. Don't have to stand in the queue, and the results are available spontaneously. I know there are still limitations. People say, oh, that population is very small. For big population, other things around, because everybody doesn't have a smart system. I can understand those risks around, but still people are working on that direction. So the blockchain, the public, then there's a private one. Those companies, which are big companies around, they've got 25, 30 organizations, they want to work together. They could have a private blockchain. Things could become faster. In a public, I could have millions and billions of people on the chain. My speed becomes slower. So consortiums could be there around. So I would say mainly it's public and private, which is the popular one. Now, the public one, as I explained to you, anyone can participate in public. So if you're talking of a digital currencies, you're talking of election vote, you're talking of land records around. If you and me, I'm say living in Delhi, Bombay, anywhere around, we want to see this house I'm buying. Who's the owner of this? Who was the previous owner of this? I can check the whole records around because a public ledger. The only thing if I need is a private key. If I have my private key given to me, I can open it and check all the records. I mean, I can see whether this building really belongs to the guy who's selling it. Every information, the truth would be available. Second is a private one, as I explained to you, so which is done by single entities. So they take over the benefits. They take care of controlling it. So this restriction is there. You need a permission to join it. Okay, guys, then comes now again blockchain part. If I say around, like anything else which happened in the good old days when the Microsoft came around, Linux came that time also. All of us are paying money to the Microsoft whenever we want any system. So whether you got 100 computers, whether you got 1,000 computers, you pay for it. And Linux came that time free, but some way it didn't become the popular worldwide. But now again, Linux has started the project on this to develop open source system. And now people who have joined, all the big players like IBM's and other big names, they're joined with Linux. They're trying to develop their own. So they came with a Hyperledger system. IBM has come up with Hyperledger Fabric, and that system is available. Many people are using it. So I know one guy he's basically selling the milk around in India. He's in Mathura. He sells through the blockchain. That means you can easily see from where the milk is coming. You can see the truth of the whole chain. It's already happening in India. So it's not something new. It's already happening around. So this is where we look at the blockchain applications. Insurance certainly is very popular with this. Supply chain, procurement, healthcare is picking up. IoT certainly big ways around. Real estate also in India is picking up. And cryptocurrency, I would say, is still on the side. Initially, it was illegal made around, but now RBI is looking into it. Still, I think long way to go for our country. The pain points in SCM, if those of you are dealing with procurement, supply chain, what are the key pain points around? The traceability part, compliance part, the flexibility part. Compliance means I want my pharma item is coming from X country to Y country, and I want the humidity to be around, let's say, 70%. I want temperature to be around 16 degrees C. It is coming through the ship. My supplier is telling me, don't worry, sir, everything is fine. Yes. But then the data which is cooked up in the central system, they can change the temperature, they can change anything. But in this case, if I'm using blockchain, I got Internet of Things around IoT, I got the sensors, information is going through the clouds, and I can pick myself. Nobody can change the data. You are complying with that. Your food items. If you feel you have a doubt whether this food is fake or what, you can check the whole thing around. Flexibility, stakeholders management, and traceability part. So this is where I was talking to around, which is, I think this area is being effectively used, tracking and tracing your shipment worldwide. You want humidity to be controlled, you want temperature to be controlled. And this is what we can do through IoT, Internet of Things. Sensors are there, information is going. But that information, if it is going to a central place, if I'm controlling the central server, I can change to avoid my rejection of my items. So, but if it is going through the blockchain, nobody can change the data. If humidity has changed, temperature has changed, I can file a case back on my transporter. So the truth is there around. So for food items, for pharma items, where you really need some controls around, I think this makes a big thing around. So reducing the information friction. So as I said to you, since each one has the information, same truth around, the friction is less. It's a shared ledger. Your ledger, my ledger, they're all copies, each other's. So I don't have to even question you, please forward me, I'll look into it. It's all shared. Then people have permission who are used. Cryptography, as I said to you, in the keys also, and the hashing also, and consensus part. So this is where this cuts down the friction in the whole chain. A very long supply chain could easily have 100 to 150 people in the line. You can imagine each one has a different ledgers. Each one has a different information. Somebody might be doing packing, somebody may be giving raw material, somebody taking care of custom clearance, somebody shipping it, somebody moving through the trucks, then it is moving through the rail, then it is coming to your place around, and where you are storing around, warehouses, many players are involved around, particularly when you become a global supply chain. So this helps you a lot. So think of this end to end. One side is supplier, other side is a customer. If I look in a very linear path, linear means only they know information. The 3PL, third party logistics, only knows when distributor gives the information to them. But if all are connected through the global in the clouds, everybody has an access to the data. If I'm a 3PL companies, I know my supplier is already sent the goods around. It's coming to the producers and I should be getting in 3 weeks. I'm ready for it. I can plan for it. And this is becoming much more visible. I've seen with one of the big company, had a chance to work in Pune on that, on a consulting. Because now during the COVID time, the demand is fluctuating like anything. 1 month back, the demand plan was different. 1 week before production, the demand system has changed. Customer has changed the loyalty. So what do I do? So by the time sales people get it, by the time they tell the production people, it's a gap. So all of are connected. So end-to-end connection is there around. So that's the beauty of it. And if you are using the blockchain, I could do it in a digital way, no second thought about it. But if I put the blockchain on top of it, then the truth is same through and through. That's the beauty of it. But if I don't use blockchain, The risk is somebody can play with the data because it's all centralized. Again, I would put it around the way we have a democratic governments versus the feudal governments. If it is a democratic, everybody has an access, rights for information. So you cannot do that much of changes around. You cannot control everything in the world. So that's the beauty of the blockchain has become, that's a better control from that angle. If I look at the P2P, procure to pay, if you really look around, there are so many activities around from one end to another end till the delivery is done. And this, if I do the blockchain, half of the activities are gone. You can see those crosses around, they're gone. And it gives you the correct information. That's the beauty of it in the blockchain. So this information would be available again once we are done this recorded version. You can see it and look at it. Now, if I look at the worldwide on the public procurement wise, public procurement, can you imagine, runs $9.5 trillion. In India, it is around $600 billion. What goes to, and it is around, in India, it is around 25% of the GDP. Worldwide, it is 15% of the world GDP. Because the more you become developed countries, you don't spend too much on people. Other projects are there around. Here in a developing country, everything is done by the government. So 25%. So 25% of the GDP is all public procurement. So now if you can say around, if that each dollar where it is spent, whether on education, whether on health, whether on the infrastructure, is it going the right way or not? If it is going through the blockchain, every information is known to you, at least to the stakeholders which are allowed. And if you're using a public ledger, every information is available. So it remains on the public procurement, remains undocumented, thus susceptible for corruption. Because nobody knows the information, only after 4 years, 5 years, you know the information. But once we use a blockchain, every information will be available. So that's the beauty. I look around from the governance angle, even the tenders are coming. If tenders are also coming through the blockchain, and they're evaluated using smart contracts. Human elements are not going with their own idea, I like this, I don't like it. If you have put down the qualifying criteria, you have put down the ideas around, system can evaluate the tenders. But you have to be very good in defining the criteria, defining the weightage of each criteria. If you've done that, it can done. So this type of things, the susceptible to corruption can go away. Everybody then scared around this way. So that's the beauty of this. Let me give you one example of this. This is what was done in the Walmart. So Walmart also had one problem once earlier around. So they were dealing with few things around and they found there was some problem, health problem with one particular item. Then they said, guys, we want to control the whole food chain, the fruit chain. So they went into this, the mangoes from which farm they are coming around, packing house where it is controlled, transportations, border crossing, processing, distribution centers, stores. So the complete chain information is available to the customers. If you are a customer, you can track and trace the information around. So they have already started in a pilot basis around. So this is the way application of the blockchain, if I look around. If any one of you think, guys, do I really need a blockchain or not? So these are the key checkpoints around. Do we need to track transactions? If you want to track the transaction and the parties involved are more than 2 parties, those of you who are dealing on a global basis, always there are more than 2 parties. You might be saying I'm buying from X, but X is buying from Y. I remember a project when I was dealing in the UN as a chairperson. The contract was around $75 million contract. And we were doing again, Iraq program. So we were buying from a supplier and supplier was not able to deliver. We were doing 3,000 kilometers of overhead cables. Suppliers was not able to deliver it. Then we found ultimately the problem was not with the supplier. The problem was down the line, the raw material stage. So if you see the number of parties which are involved, it's much bigger. Good old days, it was very easier that you have one supplier, end of it. Now today, every supplier is becoming a supply chain. They outsource. The next one also outsource. The third one also outsource. So it's becoming a long chain. So you really need, if you have more than two parties, then you need it. If you find the system is costly, very possible due to the need of the intermediate, you need intermediators, then certainly I think blockchain makes a big sense. If you want to increase the trust part of it, you want to improve the transparency part of it, accountability part of it, then again blockchain. If you feel there's a possibility of errors in manual processes, which happens, there could be duplications around, again blockchain is very good. System is vulnerable to fraud, cyber attacks, human errors, then yes. If any answer is yes, please, I think the blockchain is the right answer for that. In India, the project which have been done on blockchain, Telangana has done the land registrations, data protections. Andhra Pradesh is also done with the land records around, educational certificates, because you must have seen in the good old days, some people were saying, I've got certificate from this, but they were not able to really prove it. So that also is coming with the blockchain philosophy. Road transport license, KYC. Every bank, if you got two accounts, you have to put KYC everywhere around. So if I got once KYC, it can be passed on to any bank. Then Maharashtra has also come up with the land records. Haryana was also planning to do it, still on the way, pipeline. Karnataka's land registries. You can imagine around the government is moving more into the land records to ensure the truth of them. The governance part also, the Gujarat government is moving into this. Well, the key takeaway, friends, if I look from this, blockchain is an ongoing revolution. As you see, a decade back, smartphone came, it was a revolution. Now we take it for granted. So same way I look at blockchain as a revolution. Blockchain establishes the trust. It's a democratic system. It's not centralized system. It's a distributed system, decentralized system. And blockchain is for any domain. Blockchain is threatening any middleman actor. The only problem is the middle people who were there, they won't be required for this. I can deal directly. The way we look around in the years to come, and particularly with COVID-19, I think we have learned a lot. This will help us to boost economic growth and prosperity. Well, friends, with this, I want to thank you all for the patient hearing. I hope it was useful. But if you have any questions, any answers, I'll be happy to answer it. So maybe after this, or if you have any chats around, I can open it.